Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel, and we're back with some Rush. I got Rush Xanadu live at Montreal in '81. I chose this one because a lot of you guys said I got to check out Xanadu live to really see how they play and stuff like that. And that's what I'm going to do. I chose this one specifically because it looks like it's been remastered and maybe the video quality is a bit better and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. I just wanted to really quickly address, a lot of people are a bit incredulous how a music fan like myself can get to the age of 45 and never have heard Rush. The answer, and I addressed this in a short video on YouTube, is that I live in Australia and they're just not organically propagated over here. We only have one commercial rock radio station, Triple M, and we only have one alternative station that would even consider playing anything sort of rock related called Triple J, which I'm not a huge fan of either. And so at the end of the day, unless a band comes out and tours, or if their, content is ubiquitous on video hits and, those video clip programs and stuff like that, unless someone around me was organically going to influence me to listen to Rush, it was never going to happen. Are there Rush fans in Australia? Of course there are. There's fans of everything. In fact, I'm a huge Dream Theater fan. The first thing I learned about Rush is just how influential they were on Dream Theater. And it's crazy that I haven't stepped back and seen, where Dream Theater came from. Now I sort of know. But before we get started, I just want to say this video is brought to you by Enchroma Glasses. Enchroma make corrective lenses for colorblind people. So if you're colorblind, check out their website. If you use the code CHAOS in checkout, you get 10% off. Let's jump right in. Rush, Xanadu, live at Montreal. Here we go.
The question that you tend to ask the most often is, what if? I think if you had to simplify a motivation or simplify a moving force in our music, that
It's got to be a Moog, right? A Moog? Bells, man. Oh, that's cool. That's all volume pedal, right? Yeah, you can see his foot going, yeah. That's awesome. I'm really digging that. I love that they're taking the time to establish just sort of like an environmental flavor as an intro. As a songwriter, there's this impetus to dive straight in. There's so many people out there saying, if you want a hit song, you got to be into the chorus within 30 seconds, if not earlier. You've got to, not take the time to establish anything, any kind of vibe. And I mean, that's the beauty of prog, right? It's experimental. It can do whatever it likes. And, like seeing the imagery pop up on the screen, it's the artwork even is indicative of like, Jim Henson era 70s kind of fantasy art style. Like, for the guys who did like conceptual art and stuff with like Dark Crystal and things like that, it's all very similar. And then you have this beautiful introduction of just, random percussion hits with there's somewhat of a polyrhythmic sort of, it's just impinging on the randomness a little bit. And I love the fact that they got two guitar players and essentially four guitars on stage, because Geddy's got a 4 and a 6 string and Alex has got a 6 string and a 12 string. So anything's possible. I really like that. Also, the technique that Alex is using there is like he's just got a volume pedal, and it's so simple to just, I mean, it's not simple in the fact that what he's doing isn't complex, but it's just. So I've just got a pedal there. I'm just rocking the volume up and down, and you can sort of. And it sort of gives you that impression of a stringed instrument, like a bowed instrument. Or, you know, I've heard Slash sort of evoke like whale sounds and stuff in the song "Estranged" by Guns N' Roses as well. It's just a really cool technique, and I think sometimes it just gets forgotten about because I think it became a little passé for a minute. But boy, does that, you know, it just changes the entire aesthetic of how a guitar sounds, right? It's really cool. I'm going to jump back just a little bit. Oh, those harmonics. Oh, it's nice. Was that the bells I was hearing before? That bell tree? That's cool. It's those flourishes that just make it great, right? Very cool painting. Am I counting that right? Is that 7? 7, 8? It's kind of weird. Oh man, the timing is so crazy. Geddy's bass tone sounds a little bit deeper than I remember from YYZ. It's probably just the mix, but it's interesting. Oh, listen to that. Oh. 16 triplets, I think. So I just got to stop it there. Look, the one thing that's overwhelmingly obvious here is I just keep thinking about you just couldn't play this to a click. You know, like, did they do, I mean, obviously Rush are they still playing? I don't know. But like, you know, when you do your big shows that have like video clips and stuff like that all synced in, a lot of times you got to play to a click track. But one thing that's abundantly clear here is with this band is it's all about feel, right? They're going, of course, they're going through different meters, tempo, time signature changes, things like that. But there's also a certain amount of push and pull in the timing as well. Like Neil is just guiding them through the trajectory, but I think they all kind of feel it anyway, where, you know, you might get a part that sort of drops down to a different tempo, but it ramps, or, you know, it slows down just a little bit before the end of the bar each time. Like the part that I was questioning whether or not it was in 7, it was almost like it was kind of 7.5, because he sort of like, you know, just sort of sits back on that 1 again. And you find like, you know, what I'm saying is like you count the bar out as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. It's not like quite 8. But it's also the fills he's doing going into the 1 are just kind of strangely timed, so it feels kind of floaty at the end and stuff like that. Like this is my first time hearing it. Maybe I'm mishearing it. But I love how they sort of, this push and pull in the timing. It just sounds so organic and real. But it's also not like, if a bunch of musicians that aren't all that talented play and you can hear the timing sort of shift, usually it's indicative of them just not feeling the pulse great, or, you know, whatever it could be. But with these guys, obviously what's happening is they just have an overwhelming sense of feel, and that sort of pushing and pulling of the taffy is kind of like part of the charm of it. Like it's there deliberately to add tension and relief and just a mood, if anything. You know, that this song's very floaty and fantasy sounding, right? You know, the synths, even the visuals and stuff feel very, not psychedelic, but sort of early 70s kind of late 70s, early 80s sort of smeary kind of, I mean, it evokes those sort of fantasy films like, you know, The Dark Crystal and things like that in a way, without having that kind of neoclassical medieval influence, if that makes sense. You know, like I'm not visualizing castles and stuff. I'm just getting a flavor and energy of that period, that time period. But yeah, anyway, sorry, let me jump back a bit more. It's just so much freedom, you know, because they all trust each other and they know exactly what they're doing. Hi, man. I just thought of something. This and I don't mean this in any way to be derogatory, because this is blowing my mind right now, but it reminds me, if you've seen Spinal Tap, there's a song they do called Stonehenge, which I feel is somewhat directly linked to this as an influence, right? Because it has this talking at the start, you know, long before the dawn of history, there lived a people, the Druids, you know, and then they go and it's got that fantasy sort of thing, and then it does a breakdown in the middle that's kind of like, you know, piccolos or something, you know, and then they get the little people out there dancing around on stage. It just, that feels like a spoof of what I'm seeing here. I guess they probably were heavily influenced by Rush as well. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but the flavor, I mean, again, also, you know, the Spinal Tap was about a rock metal band from this exact era. So it kind of makes sense that there would be musical similarities and stuff like that. But I question whether or not they're sort of having a bit of a dig at bands like Rush as well. But man, this is really cool. Great synth sounds, man. Can someone tell me in the comments what he's playing there? I love that. That's really cool. Oh. Portamento, baby.
To stand within the pleasure dome, decreed by Kubla Khan. To taste anew the fruits of life, the last immortal man. To find a sacred river left, to walk the caves twice. I will die of honeydew, married on milk of
What an amazing voice. Wow. Imagine being Neil Peart's tech, man. So much to set up. So again, this is what's great about them. As far as like, look, I'm not going to even begin to try and count out the measures and stuff like that, but you can definitely hear where they're adding extra beats and stuff to a particular bar to elongate a musical idea or a passage, so that it's just a second, da 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 da, bam 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 bam, you know, into like to notate this must be a freaking nightmare. But it's just really interesting because again, they're just pulling and pushing with your emotions. Like, you know, as human beings, we hear beats in one of essentially two ways, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and possibly a waltz with like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're the two most common times. And anything outside of that is so subversive to just our internal clock that you can't help but be drawn in, you know. Or it's that same thing where you get people who don't like things like prog and people who hate bands like Tool because they sort of push those limits, or Dream Theater. It's probably because that makes them uneasy, or it makes them, it seems overly complex to understand. But you know, what's great is you get bands that are technically like your math rock bands, or, you know, super complexity for complexity's sake style bands. I see Tool and I see Rush now from hearing this in a similar vein of somehow they take that complexity and they make it seem organic. They make it seem like they're not trying hard to come up with something complex. It always serves the music. And I think that's why Tool sort of gets away with it as much as they do, because, you know, Danny Carey's a genius, and his in fact, they all are, but his rhythms and the choices that they all make rhythmically should be, for a lot of people, really hard to take, because there's so much going on with, you know, going from 7/8 to 6/8 to doing something else and blah, blah, blah. Same as what these guys are doing. But they seem to make it feel like it's just flowing naturally. And that's the challenge, right? anybody can write or program drums that are really complex and come up with riffs and stuff to go over the top of that really sort of, chop and change. But to make something fluid that sort of fits to that meter or those meters is a whole different ballgame. And that's where, I think that's why some of these bands sort of sit above everyone else, and some of them just sort of they're just middling. They're all incredibly talented musicians, but it almost seems like they've got less to say outside of, here's something we made that we're really proud of because it's hard as hell to play. Whereas some people just write really good songs. So here we go. I'll jump back a little bit more.
Waiting for the world to run, weary of the night, praying for the light, risen of the lost, Xanadu,
Long before the dawn of history. You know what I mean?
held within the pleasure dome, decreed by Colourblindness to taste my bitter triumph as a mad mortal man. Nevermore shall I return.
Nice.
Escape these games of ice. By all I do, lay upon this paradise. Rolling in paradise.
There's that phrasing again, man. Wow. So what? Hang on, give me a second. (1987). To answer me this, listen to that guitar part. And tell me that's not reminiscent of... It's not the same, but rhythmically it's similar. It's... There's something to it that just strikes me as similar. I wonder, has Slash ever mentioned that he's a Rush fan or that he's influenced by Rush? Because I'm wondering if maybe he's been noodling around with that lick or something and just came up with that. I mean, look, it's 100 to 1 shot. I don't know. But I was just listening to that and hearing it for the first time, it evoked Sweet Child of Mine to me like crazy. Like, again, it's not the same pattern. It's not the same melodically shifted into a different key or anything like that. It's just the pattern there's something about the repetition of it and the pattern and the you know, it's in the right kind of space, you know, from an octave perspective and things like that. You know, like, again, I'm spitballing, but... And I mean, Sweet Child of Mine was released in 87. This was 1981. You tell me. She's got a smile that it seems to me. Come on. Wow, what a cool song. Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to Stick Hits who remastered the video. Thank you, I appreciate that. Man. Okay, so coming into this, I really didn't know whether or not it was going to be like a cover of, like, you know, the song Xanadu, they put their Rush spin on it, or, you know, or something like that. I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, Xanadu is not a name that exists in a vacuum. It's, you know, was this inspired by the movie? Was this on the soundtrack to the movie? I really don't know, but it seems strange if they'd have two songs called Xanadu, right? Fill me in, because you know, I'm a Rush baby. You know, you guys are here to help me out. Jump in the comments and see if you can educate me on what's going on here. But what a great song. I think I said a lot of what my first impressions were, and that is it's very for as complex as it is, it's very organic and fluid. Obviously all the playing is second to none. I've paused it on a frame where Alex Lifeson looks like a Jedi that's been killed and come back to life. They're amazing. They're just simply amazing. And it's an embarrassment to me, calling myself a fan of music, to have taken this long to get to know Rush. But they're definitely someone I can see myself listening to a lot more. Let me know what else. I mean, you guys have commented about a bunch of different stuff, but for whatever reason, Xanadu was the one you guys wanted me to watch to sort of get an understanding of how they function as a 3-piece live. And now I get it. I genuinely get it. They leave room to access, you know, synth parts when necessary. And I've seen footage of Geddy playing pedals. You know, so I know that they probably did things differently throughout their career, but this was a really cool way of seeing it. Like 981 is difficult to sort of have all the bells and whistles, because a lot of technology that we appreciate today didn't exist back then, you know? And the fact that these guys were up there and performing such incredibly beautiful and complex music, you know, without the benefits of things like in-ear monitoring or playing to a click or backing tracks, or, you know, I mean, back in the old days, a backing track was your guitar tech side of stage playing the other parts, you know, you know what I mean? Something like that. So, you know, the ability to make something that's such a masterpiece like this, and then to be able to just reproduce it live in front of a crowd, it's kind of like a lost art. You know, I think a lot of times nowadays people are composing things in the studio, and I'm guilty of this too. And then it's a matter of like, oh, we're gonna have to play this live at some point, but we'll just figure it out. You know, we'll use backings and things. And people talk about backing tracks like it's a swear word. It's not. It's the way that it needs to be in a lot of cases. If you're charging $130 for a ticket and you're doing stadium tours around the world, and, you know, people are paying and they expect to see something larger than life. There's very few bands touring these days who can entertain the crowd in like a stand-up comedy way, right? The reference there is like a stand-up comic will tour stadiums, but all they take with them is a microphone. They plug it into the PA and they put on a show, and they might have one or two visual cues. They might have, you know, a musical track to bring them on, but then they talk to you for 40 minutes to an hour and then they leave. You know, there's very few bands that can have that weight of expectation, and they can just show up and give people their money's worth by just being there, plugging in and playing. So that's just the nature of things today. And a lot of smaller bands that are touring like clubs and stuff, they're trying to bring that same big stadium rock aesthetic to their shows. So they'll use backings and video production and lighting effects and all that sort of thing as well, because you dress for the job you want, right? But, you know, I know that you could probably go see Rush today and they could put on the exact same show they put on in 1981 and you'd still leave stoked, you know, with just generic stage lighting, a spotlight and some colored lights, maybe a laser, you know, because the heart and soul of why you're there is the music and these three guys producing it for you live and in real time. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that's something that, you know, young people today probably don't get a feel for, because every major artist they've ever gone and seen had to put on a Cirque du Soleil style performance. You know, like you go see Pink, and, you know, a lot of people don't know Pink started out as an R&B singer, but she made it through into the pop rock scene. But now when you go and see her show, it's like a circus. You know, she'll jump out into a harness and fly over the crowd and zoom in and zoom out and carry around and still sing the song doing backflips. And that's a show that people won't forget, you know, but it would be hard for someone like, just basically anyone else to just go out there and play and sing and still feel like people have gotten their money's worth. Rush, I'm not sure. Rush, I think he'd probably get away with it. So, yeah. But then again, all those bells and whistles are nice too. I saw Tool recently, like in the last couple of years, and they're on their recent tour, and visually it was absolutely spectacular. So, you know, there's something to be said for that too. But what my point sort of gets back to, as a performer, it's your job to entertain the audience with the music and with your performance and with your abilities. And I think that, you know, these days that can easily get whitewashed by production. And it's good to see that these guys could cut it live and do something magical on stage and give people that magical experience just by being them and playing their songs. So that's cool. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for checking this one out, guys. I really appreciate it. If you feel like you want to support the channel, just buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description. You can also click the thanks button under the video. That also helps dramatically as well, keeping the channel afloat. And like, share, follow, subscribe. If you know any Rush fans who might enjoy this video, send it to them. And yeah, that's the way this channel gets bigger. But don't forget, click like and subscribe so that more of these pop up in your future. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you. Stay primal, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you.